Hey, welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. I'm here at Main Street Murray headquarters here in Columbia. Wade's at his home, and we will be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. Excited to do so as we continue through postseason play for high school spring sports and professional winter sports, among other things. Wade, what's up?
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you and good to see you and good to see and be with everybody here. Looking forward. You said it. We're in the middle of one of the prime parts of the calendar with high school going on. You got college tournaments getting ready to crank up for your spring sports. We have playoffs literally coming out of our ears. Storylines abound, and it is you really can't get any better than this.
It's a great time of year. It's a busy time of year, but it's a great time of year. And we are looking forward to giving you a snapshot of it here again over the next couple of hours. In our next hour, we will catch up with CHRISTINA de NICOLA of MLB.com. She covers the Miami Marlins for MLB.com. And the Marlins have a big game at Wrigley Field tonight against the Chicago Cubs. It's a big game, in part because it'll be the 2025 debut of former Loretto High School standout Ryan Weathers, who will get the start for the Marlins against a really good Chicago Cubs team on its home field. So Ryan has been he's made some rehab starts after sustaining a forearm strain during spring training, but we're going to check in with CHRISTINA and see what the thoughts and what the expectations are for Ryan as he hits the field for the first time at the major league level this season. Looking forward to chatting with her. Also in the next segment, we'll be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City for our NASCAR update. We'll talk a little bit about Kyle Larson out at Kansas, and we'll talk a little bit about the All-Star race coming up on the Cup Series this weekend, among other things. With Heather. It's always fun when we catch up with Heather midweek like this, so looking forward to doing so. We'll also talk some NBA, some NHL. Obviously, those playoffs are going on. We've also got some NFL news, some college football news, plenty of baseball. So, again, plenty to get to here over the next couple of hours, and it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will close the show with the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the country. No international stuff on tap today, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But there's plenty of stuff here stateside to fascinate you. So looking forward to that in the final segment of the show. Should be a lot of fun. Stick around. Wade, shall we get to it?
I say we get things rolling, bud, because we've got a big show today, but we got a lot to tap into to bring everybody up to speed on what's been going on.
Absolutely. So let's do that with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. It is time for your Wednesday rundown, and that means we wind back the clock to Tuesday and give you the results. Let's start with softball action last night. Couple of games of local interest as Mount Juliet defeats John Overton 16-1, and Forest outlasting Summertown in a region showdown. 5-4 was your final there. Light softball slate last night. A lot of those games played on Monday. Let's go now, boys soccer. Big night for boys soccer, and we start locally with Battle Creek, who defeats Community 3-2 in overtime. And if you're looking for coverage of that game, you can find it, as always, at mainstreetmurray.com. Big win for Battle Creek there. Beach with a 3-1 victory versus Cane Ridge last night. Chester County.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go.
You're up.
No, I was interrupting unnecessarily. Sorry. Ignore me.
Don't do that now. You maybe lose focus here. Beach with a 3-1 win versus Cane Ridge. Chester County on top of Fairview 2-1. It was Cookeville 3, Rockville 2. Forest blanks Richland. Very tightly contested game last night in Chapel Hill. 1-0 was your final there. Not so tightly contested as Franklin defeats Columbia 9-0. It was Harpeth 4, McKenzie 0. Hendersonville with a 1-0 victory versus Hillsboro. Hume Fogg pitching a shutout versus Portland. 4-0 was your final there. Huntington all over Cheatham County last night, winning that one 3-1. Liberty Creek doing the same to Smith County, 8-2 your final. It was Independence Academy 5, Merrill Hyde 4. White House Heritage with a 7-1 victory over Monterey. Rossview defeating Henry County 4-0. Ravenwood takes care of Shelbyville 5-1. It was Siegel 2, Smyrna 0. Station Camp blanking Glencliff 9-0. Sounds like a mercy rule to me. Also sounds like a similar script for STEM Academy, who did the same to Stratford. Again, 9-0, your two finals there. Sycamore with a 2-1 victory versus Lexington. And capping your soccer scoreboard last night, it was Clarksville 2, West Creek 0.
In college softball action yesterday from the Central Methodist Regional of the NAIA National Tournament, it was the Lady Firehawks of UT Southern 4, the University of British Columbia 1. Major League Baseball from yesterday, Atlanta picks up a 5-2 victory over the Washington Nationals. More on that later on the show. Also, the Houston Astros walk it off against Kansas City 2-1. Sounds were supposed to open their series out at Memphis yesterday evening. That game was postponed due to rain. In baseball action today, we've got a doubleheader at Christ Presbyterian Academy as the Lions host Chattanooga Christian. First game is scheduled for 3:30, the second one 6:30. Also a double dip over at Columbia Academy, the defending Division 2A state champion Bulldogs hosting St. George's out of Memphis. First game is set to start at 4:30, 7 o'clock for the second one. Other action today on the baseball diamond, Summertown goes to Huntington for a 7 o'clock start. The rest of these matchups we have no times for. Cleveland goes to Blackman. Siegel travels to Bradley Central. Lawson goes out to Chester County. Houston is at Clarksville. Clarksville Academy hosting Evangelical Christian. Rossview goes down to Collierville. Liberty Creek is at East Nashville. East Robertson hosts CSLA. And unfortunately, I don't know what those initials stand for, but that school is out of Chattanooga. Hardin County goes to White House, and Stratford is at White House Heritage.
Boys soccer should be a good one tonight in region action. Two teams from District 8 AAA will do battle for a region title as Murfreesboro Central Magnet will make the trip to Winchester to take on the Franklin County Rebels. That game gets underway at 7 o'clock. College softball, the NAIA National Tournament continues for the UT Southern Firehawks, and a game that just went final. Took them 8 innings, but UT Southern outlasting LSU Alexandria. I show a final score of 7-3. So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is UT Southern will now meet tournament host Central Methodist tonight or here in just a moment. They'll wait about 30 minutes and get game number 8 of that regional underway. If UT Southern wins, you get to do it all over again tomorrow, but this time it would be for the championship. So again, an 8-3 victory in 8 innings today. Speaking of Diamond Sports, let's go Nationals and Braves. That game kicks off at 6:15 today. You can see it on FanDuel Sports South. Astros hosting the Royals. About an hour later, first pitch set for 7:10. The Sounds will be at Memphis at 12:05. We show a score of Memphis 11-0. That game in the bottom of the 7th. So get some runs going, Sounds, at this point.
Yeah.
Finally, midweek MLS action tonight. The New York Red Bulls will come to Nashville. That game kicks off at 7:30. You can see it on Apple TV. It'll be a hospitality worker appreciation night. But most importantly, folks, it'll be dollar hot dog night. So come hungry out to Geodis tonight as Nashville takes on the New York Red Bulls. That brings us to the end of our Wednesday schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our Wednesday rundown.
Your top story brought to you by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And we delve into the world of college football as the opening weekend lineup for television is starting to take shape as folks start to plan out their holiday weekend and their holiday weekend college football viewing. And among the games that will be offered up nationally is a matchup between LSU and Clemson. That will be the Saturday night ABC primetime featured game. That'll be a 6:30 kickoff on Saturday night over in Clemson. And it's interesting to me because both these teams have kind of created a opening weekend tradition that they would just as soon get away from. And I guess one of them will be able to do so. Both LSU and Clemson have been pretty disappointing in marquee matchups to start the season here over the last little bit. Clemson over the last 2 years lost to Duke 2 years ago on opening night and got thumped by Georgia this past season, 34-3 over in Athens. But they will be at home again. Lost at Duke 28-7 to open the 23 season and lost to Georgia at Georgia 34-3 this past year. LSU said, hold my beer. They lost back-to-back games at home to Florida State and at Florida State in pretty convincing fashion in 22 and 23. Well, I'll take that back. They lost 24-23 to a Florida State team in 22, but they lost 45-24 in Tallahassee to open the 23 season. Last year, Southern Cal came into Baton Rouge and got them 27-20. So, again, a little underwhelming.
You played that game in Vegas, if I recall correctly.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah, I'm looking at a schedule that shows LSU as the home team, but yeah, I think that was in Vegas. Good call. But both a bit underwhelming to start the season the last little bit. So again, at least one of them will get a 1-0 start over Labor Day weekend. But should be interesting. Two of the better quarterbacks returning in Klubnik at Clemson and Nussmeier, who a lot of people seem to think has some some NFL upside for the Tigers, for the LSU Tigers, or both Tigers. Interesting matchup.
Yeah, interesting matchup. And like you said, two teams that have kind of underachieved, certainly to their fan bases and what they've grown accustomed to. Kind of laid some stinkers in the opening games in the last couple of years. But to your last point there, absolutely. Klubnik and Nussmeier, both highly coveted heading into next year's draft. But also, this probably is going to be a springboard for either one of those guys for a Heisman campaign. It certainly feels like it should be a fun showdown. Glad we kind of got things finalized. You kind of had most of the details, but good to kind of set them in stone. Pretty even, according to Vegas at least. Clemson is predicted to win 9.5, or the over/under is set at 9.5 wins this season. LSU is a little bit less at 8.5. So depending on how you view those particular teams, they're kind of projected to be middle of the road. Got two really good quarterbacks. Got a lot of talent, of course, on both rosters. But will they be able to put it all together, and will they be able to take care of business? That game will kind of get a leg up on starting that process.
That game will be the third of a triple header on ABC on that Saturday of Labor Day weekend. They will open with Syracuse and Tennessee playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. That'll be an 11 o'clock a.m. kickoff. That'll be followed by Alabama at Florida State, and then, again, LSU and Clemson. You'll also have Notre Dame at Miami that Sunday night. Fox has Texas at Ohio State that weekend. Time has not been set yet for that one. Additionally, ESPN has a Thursday doubleheader. Boise State goes to South Florida, and Nebraska plays Cincinnati in Kansas City. ESPN also has Virginia Tech and South Carolina in Atlanta on the 31st. And then on Labor Day, it'll be North Carolina and TCU in the debut of Bill Belichick for the Tar Heels. So plenty to get you going that opening weekend on a national basis. If you're ready for college football, trust me, I'm not, but that LSU Clemson matchup came across my radar and just kind of caught my attention. So
Man, I was a little surprised to hear that. No, I just saw a graphic this week. We're 100 days basically until the start of college football. So I'm salivating here. I watched Metallica perform Enter Sandman at Lane Stadium last week, and the clips just gave me goosebumps. Yeah, give it to me, baby.
You're ready, huh?
Yeah, why not?
Just skip over June, July, and August, and let's get to it. Okay, all right. I hear you.
You can only, based on the kind of the preview, I'll be curious to see. Based on the preview Willie G gave us, there will be maybe some WNBA action to keep us kind of, captivated. The FIFA Club World Cup will be coming through Nashville at some point, so that'll kind of get you a little bit. But yeah, you're just setting the clock in anticipation for late August, it feels like.
The countdown has started to kickoff. I don't want to rush it, though, because coming with college football is high school football, and we know what that means. So it'll get here. Be patient. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we continue Wild and Wacky Wednesday after this, we'll be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR. Stick around.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Super Speedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Let us connect you with a team that you'll be bedazzled by when you connect with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Let's meet the team. This is Charles Calvert, known as One Take. He's the plumbing service manager. Here we have Matt Cook. He's known as Big Country. He's the HVAC service manager.
Hey! Visit Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for all your needs.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Hey, welcome back to Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, that's Wade Neely, and we are joined now by our NASCAR analyst from WCYB-TV out of Johnson City, Heather Williams, who I believe is still in Kansas visiting family. Heather, good Wednesday.
Good Wednesday. Technically in Missouri. My family was on the Missouri side of the state line.
Is that good or bad?
To answer your question,
it's
no.
Outstanding. It's the better side of the state line.
That's the better place to be. That's my experience on that border.
It's where most of the stuff is in Kansas City. I mean, the city sits on the state line, but when you think of Chiefs, Royals are on the Missouri side of the state line. All of the barbecue, all of the Jazz Museum, the Negro Baseball Museum, all of that stuff, the Art District, all of that is on the Missouri side of the state line. The racetrack and Sporting Kansas City are on the Kansas side.
I've done all of that. I've done none of the Kansas side. So everything you just said, I sympathize with. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing out on anything over there.
I mean, there's so much. Next time you come, I can make you a list. I mean, there's restaurants and cool art museums and, lots of sports.
Y'all, I can't hear either of you for what that's worth.
We could hear Mo.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We may try and get Mo to come back in here in a second, but as we are just, waxing poetically about Kansas City, Missouri, in a past life, Heather, I was there a lot for work, and so I hit up most of those. Did not get to go to Arrowhead, did not, get to go to any of the ballparks. I lost a little money, if you catch my drift, at a few places over there, but I hadn't
Those
spent
exist on both sides of the state line.
Okay, I'm aware of that now, which is good or bad, I guess, depending on your interpretation. But I'm pumped, and I'm glad to hear it sounds like you're having a good time as well. Give us an update on what else is new with you and since we've last spoke.
Well, I went out to the racetrack for a little bit. I did not go to the actual race. I went for practice and qualifying day. The point of my trip is my niece's dance competition / dance recital. So that's why I'm here. But I did squeeze in a little bit of racing on this trip because I can and I wanted to.
I mean, you kind of got to mix to get the best of both worlds. Take advantage when Mother Nature kind of presents you those opportunities, right?
Yeah, for sure. But the dancing took the priority for this week.
Heather, in addition to, I'll attempt one, but a lame segue. But what about Kyle Larson kind of dancing his way? Because the first thing I read when you have us on, I pull up, NASCAR takeaways, and the headline on this one says Larson continues his embarrassment tour. The words domination are used. Kind of, what are we seeing out of Larson that makes this year so special for him so far?
Well, the thing with Kyle Larson is and always has been that he just goes for it, right? He does not care. He's a wreckers or checkers kind of guy. And I think maybe, I don't know, he's had fewer wreckers this year. So I think maybe he is at 32, 33, 34 years old, somewhere around in there, starting to mature a little bit and taking fewer risks, which is making him a more consistent driver. And as long as he's not on the back of a rollback somewhere, he's always the most dangerous guy on the racetrack. So for him, maybe to be finding that consistency, maybe finding a little bit more patience. I also think that, after everything that happened when he first came back to the sport, he had a lot to prove because he was driving for the best team after everything had happened. So I think that this is, now he's settled in. He didn't have to prove anything. He's got a championship. Everybody kind of widely considers him to be the most talented guy in the garage area. So I just think it's everything coming together. Now we're very early in the season. I mean, at this point last year, everybody was not talking about Joey Logano, right? And he's the guy who won the championship. So you don't know. I think early on last year, all the scuttle was about William Byron. He won a ton of races early and then kind of fizzled off. He made it into the championship four, but kind of fizzled off through the summer and never really got his full mojo back. So it's really early to be judging what's going on the track, but he's certainly living up to his billing of being the most talented guy in the garage area, at least early in the season.
Absolutely. And in addition to obviously winning the race, I found this kind of nugget captivating that, number one, he led his 10,000th lap in NASCAR series. And I'm not going to attempt to put the scale on that. Maybe you could do a better job of that. But also, this is what blew me away. Got 2 stage wins, 8 on the year, more than double than any other driver. So he's not just getting wins. He's just literally dominating, it seems like, from start to finish in a lot of these races.
Yeah, when he wins, he dominates. I mean, that's the way it is. When he wins, he's the guy that unloads and is the quickest guy off the truck and really doesn't let go of that stranglehold all weekend. As far as the laps led, there are other guys that have led that many laps, but they've all been in the sport much longer than him. I mean, the pace is incredible. Also, when you consider that he was suspended for NASCAR for half a season and didn't drive for half a season, that also just kind of equals into how amazing it is and how talented he is.
Mo, are you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Awesome. Glad to be back. Wouldn't want to miss Heather. I guess you guys were talking about Kyle Larson and his win at Kansas this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's where we're talking about dominating performance. But the thing is that was dominating, but the race was still entertaining, right? There was still a lot going on other than just Kyle. Lots of good battles, for runner up to Kyle. I think from the very beginning, it was pretty apparent that Kyle was going to be the man. But, from that point on, from that point back, there was still a lot of racing. That Kansas Speedway is wide. You could pass. It's fast. It's pretty entertaining racetrack. It was not the most entertaining Kansas race ever, but I thought it was a good race.
Now, that was his third win of the season, obviously, but was he the first guy to win from the post this year?
From the pole this year? Probably. I can't think of anyone else who has.
I thought that was what I saw as I was looking back through some stuff.
Did he win the pole at Bristol too? No, Alex Bowman won the pole at Bristol. Yeah, he probably was the first one.
Okay. How much more impressive does that make his performance, or is it
it's kind of on
day at the office, Kyle?
It's kind of on brand for him because, even though those other two wins, he didn't start on the pole. He started up towards the front. He's the kind of guy that if he's up front and you get him close enough to the front, first couple of 2 or 3 rows, and he's got a good car, forget about it. He's checked out. So it's kind of on brand for him as far as when he puts a whooping on the field, he does it honest. So, it's hard sometimes in a sense, depending on the track. And a track like Kansas is a track where it's a little harder to stay out front because from a strategy standpoint, everybody's going to do the opposite of you of what you do. And if cautions fall out of your way or whatever, but with this next gen car, being out front is the place to be. And if you have a fast car and you're up front, it's really hard to get around you.
Okay. All right. So what does that mean as he starts toward his Memorial Day double with Indianapolis and his Cup Series as well? Put him in a pretty good spot, I guess.
Oh yeah, he's in a great spot. He is, I think now, if they reseeded the playoffs by getting the third win, I think he would now be the top seed in the playoffs if they were to start today. Christopher Bell has 3 wins as well, but I think Kyle is now higher in the points. So he would be the number 1 seed, and Seabell would be the 2 seed, and Denny Hamlin would be the 3 seed. This year his double is going to be different than it was last year, because last year his double, they allowed Hendrick, all of them decided that IndyCar was the priority. And so he ended up missing the Cup race, and that actually cost him the regular season championship a year ago. NASCAR's really not having that this year. They've told him they wouldn't give him a waiver this year for the playoffs if he missed it. So NASCAR's the priority. So if there's rain or whatever, he will leave. They've got Tony Kanaan set to back him up. If he has to get out of the car early to come back, then Tony Kanaan would jump in the car. They didn't really have a backup last year for him at Indy, just kind of showing that was the priority. So it's going to be a different experience for him. It all starts this weekend because they have Indy qualifying on Saturday. So Justin Allgaier will practice and qualify the car for him at the All-Star race, and then, at least practice it. He wouldn't be able to qualify. He's going to practice it. The Kyle come back. If he makes the fast 9 in IndyCar, he'll leave anyway. He will just start 9th and come and qualify his Cup car and come back and do the All-Star race. Like I said, they're making NASCAR the priority this year. So that's kind of where he is. And then back and forth, lots of plane rides back and forth, and helicopter rides from Wilkesboro to Indy and Indy to Charlotte.
How long is that by helicopter?
Yeah.
Well, they'll fly into I think they fly into Mooresville and then just helicopter over or somewhere nearby to Wilkesboro, and then the helicopter the last 30 minutes or whatever. Same thing at Indy. They just fly a helicopter out of the infield to his jet, get on the jet, and then land helicopter into the last bit of it to the track.
Got you. That's wild. Heather, is NASCAR taking a harder line as far as that goes? I mean, does it have to be that way, or and if so, why?
Well, I don't think that NASCAR really liked the fact that their biggest star was prioritizing prioritizing the Indy 500 and not their race that he's running for a championship for. So yeah, they are taking a harder line on what they do as far as if you miss races and are granted a waiver or aren't granted a waiver. Because the other thing that they're doing is if they do grant him a waiver, which they could still grant him a waiver, unless it's an extenuating circumstance like you get injured in the car, you're not going to, if you get injured in the car, you're not going to get to carry over any points you have. These wins that he's gotten in these stages that you mentioned that he's led, those are points that you can carry over to the playoffs. They are playoff points involved. They could, if you miss because you're suspended or you miss because you just decided to go play in another series, they've decided that they can grant you a waiver, but if that's the reason why they grant you the waiver, you don't get to take any of the playoff points or any of the points that you earned prior to that point with you. So he would be back at 0 as far as playoff points go, which, considering he's won 3 races, he's got a lot of those built up. And those are so important. Martin Truex Jr. 2 years ago made it to the round of 8 purely based on the fact of the amount of playoff points he had built up because he was terrible in the playoffs. But he kept advancing because he had all those extra points from the regular season. And that's how NASCAR incentivized running the regular season and getting those points during the regular season. So Hendrick Motorsports has already announced that the Coke 600 is the priority this year.
Yeah, and I guess kudos to them for that. But it just feels like to me, as a casual racing fan, it seems kind of cool if somebody can do something like that. And it feels like NASCAR is kind of being unnecessarily punitive with regards to the situation, to me.
Well, I don't think so. I think NASCAR really enjoys him doing the double. I think they definitely see the advantage. I think that where opinions differ, I think that most people in the real world believe that the Indy 500 is one of the crown jewel events of sports and sees that as a priority. But NASCAR is a sanctioning body. Doesn't want anyone picking something over them, right? Especially when you're their biggest star and you're running for a championship. I should be the priority. So, I mean, yes, go play, but decisions come with consequences, and that's kind of just big boy life, right? I mean, you can go play in the Indy 500, but if you come back here and you don't make it for the Coke 600, then you lose all those points.
We want you to have fun, but not too much fun. If it's the vibe I kind of get.
The priority, NASCAR still. At the end of the day, NASCAR is still the one. I mean, it's Rick Hendrick, but NASCAR, the collective NASCAR, is still the one that's paying the checks, right? They're the ones that are making it possible for him, who made it possible for Rick Hendrick to have the money to go into this IndyCar, conglomerate. What makes it possible for Kyle to have the money to do that and to run all his sprint car things, and he owns his own sprint car series and stuff. NASCAR and his popularity that he got in that and the money he made in that is what makes that possible. So I don't think that they really like being number 2.
There's another phrase for it, but we won't use it here on these airwaves. But I mean, it's interesting to watch to me, and it just feels like to me NASCAR is being a little petty, but they've gotten the outcome that they wanted. So good for them. The All-Star race coming up this weekend. What do you expect?
Honestly, not a great race. I mean, I love North Wilkesboro. It's a historic racetrack. It is cool to be there. There's so many So the restoration of North Wilkesboro Speedway came from basically COVID funding. The governor of North Carolina did this whole kind of North Carolina revival thing where they wanted to revive old racetracks to pump money into the North Carolina economy post-COVID. So they made grants to North Wilkesboro was one of them. Rockingham, where we went this year, and the Truck Series Xfinities was another one. And the way that Speedway Motorsports restored North Wilkesboro is very cool because they made it modern. They kept a lot of the vintage touches, like didn't really destroy the facade and the things that were there that were salvageable from North Wilkesboro after being shut down for 30 years or however long it was inoperable, 20 some years. And just really cool touches. There's an old shack in the infield. I actually did a story on this 2 years ago when they first opened it. That used to be like the, I think they used it for tires or something, but it's tiny. And then when they built a bigger building for that, it became a place where drivers kind of did their untaxed transactions. basically they would buy and sell moonshine in this building. So, and there's actually like moonshine tunnels under the grandstands and stuff where they would sneak it in and out. But so they've kept that shack intact, even though it's in a ridiculous place. It makes no sense for it to be where it is. Rick Allen, who used to call races for NASCAR, he's actually a carpenter. And so he restored it. And they put a really cool like moonshine still in there and like an ode to the fact that they used to do moonshining in there. It's a really cool kind of just historic touch. And those kinds of things go on all over the track. Like it's just, they've done a really great job at it. So being at North Wilkesboro is really cool. But this car, we've talked about it before, on the short tracks, in this generation of car, it is not put on good racing. So the two races that we've run in the All-Star race, 2 years ago, Kyle Larson led all but about 10 laps. And last year, Joey Logano did basically the same. Both of them started from the pole. And once they got up front in a good car, it was just impossible to pass them. So I don't expect the racing to be that great, but the pomp and circumstance and the event is always cool.
A little something extra to look for. I love the lore aspect of it. And if I remember correctly, we kind of walked through this a little bit with you last year. I think Ryan McGee has mentioned it too. It's kind of one of the cool subplots. At least that's enough to compel me to want to learn a little more, even if, like you said, the racing may not be that great this weekend.
Yeah, and we did get a fight last year. I mean, and one of the cool old school things about North Wilkesboro is it doesn't have a crossover tunnel. So when you're inside the track, you're stuck till the race is over. There's no way to get out of the inside of the track except for to go across the track. So last year when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got wrecked by Kyle Busch, very early on in the All-Star race, he had about 150 laps to sit there and stew and be angry at Kyle Busch that he wrecked him, to be angry that he was trapped at the track and couldn't leave until the race was over. So when the race was over, Ricky was waiting at Kyle's race hauler, and they had a big fight, a huge fight, brawl, punches, rolling on the ground, the whole 9 yards. Your buddy pulling them off of each other. He became very famous for that moment. So there's always that possibility that makes it interesting. I think that everybody has, kind of nostalgic feelings for last year's race because of that. And I think more people could tell you about that than they could tell you who won the race last year, which was Joey Logano. But more people could probably tell you about the fight.
Yeah, I got to get with Justin on that. He won't want any more spotlight. He's a kind of quiet and reserved guy by his nature, but I know there were shirts and such last year. It might be time to launch a quick little merch push ourselves. We might be sitting on a little gold mine heading into this weekend.
I mean, it's literally what everybody remembers about that race. And it was funny because the photographer that I was with, we both had cameras, and I was like, I'm going to go to Victory Lane. I said, you go, because he's a much better shooter than me because he's a photographer. I'm a TV personality that plays photographer sometimes. I said, you go to Kyle Busch and you just follow him until he leaves the track. Because I just knew. He came back to me, he's like, that was awesome. How did you know? I was like, well, Ricky basically told us that they were going to fight. So he just followed him off all the way down pit road, and you can see him. You can see Ricky standing there at the hauler, just waiting, kind of leaned up against some tires, and it was on.
Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today as we talk NASCAR. Heather, I don't know that we have talked about it, but the nominees for the 2026 Hall of Fame class were announced not too long ago, and fan voting is open now for that.
Yes.
And I am trying to access the nominees as we speak. Is there anybody, I'm sure you've looked at this list, is there anybody on here that you would be willing to campaign for?
Well, I think that of the new nominees, the new people that were added, the most notable one would be Kurt Busch. I think he's probably, if not, he's borderline first ballot, definitely a Hall of Famer. I think that the guy that's on there for me that I think needs to get in, that I would probably campaign for would be Harry Gant. Very successful what is now the Xfinity Series, his Busch Grand National Series when he ran it. Just went through streaks. I think he went through like a 10 or 12 race span where he run in a row. Like just when he was dominant, he was very dominant. And in that series. So I believe that Harry Gant should be in there. Not as good a Cup Series driver, though did have success on the Cup Series, but just this is the NASCAR Hall of Fame, so it's for all series, Truck Series drivers, Cup Series, Xfinity, even modifieds are in there. So I believe Harry Gant should be in on this Hall of Fame class. I believe Kurt Busch at some point will get in. And then there are some people on the legacy ballot that I also believe should be in, but those are probably the two biggest ones that stick out for me. I don't have the full list in front of me, so I kind of forget who all's on there.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. You mentioned Bush and Gant on the modern era ballot, I guess. And let's see, in the Pioneer era, you've got Ray Hendrick, which is Banjo Matthews. I don't know much about him, but that's a great nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those two should be in the Hall of Fame.
There we go. Okay. But fan voting is available now, and then I guess the committee meets next Tuesday to handle some business as far as that goes. So
and it's a mixture of I think past champion gets a vote, so Joey Logano will be involved, media members and Hall of Famers, current Hall of Famers, I think is who makes up that committee, and industry people. I mean, obviously, like the France family will have several representatives. I think Lisa Kennedy France and Ben Kennedy, and I think Steve Phelps, the commissioner of NASCAR, gets a vote. So, but yeah, that's they usually take them 4 or 5 hours to kind of figure out who they're going to nominate, and then they'll come out later that day after the voting.
Okay. All right. So, well, we would have that in time for your next appearance on Wednesday, but there won't be an appearance for you on Wednesday because next Wednesday we'll be in the midst of spring fling. So
cannot believe we're already there.
Tell me about it. Yeah, you can't believe it. Yeah. So again, we will have a live show on Monday, but the rest of the week we will be yielding this space to Spring Fling HQ with Chip Walters, friend of the show, and his crew from Spring Fling headquarters over in Murfreesboro. So we won't be on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Well, it looks
Friday,
it looks like we'll probably, I would think, have at least one team over there in Spring Fling. The Greenville baseball team.
Okay.
They're ranked number 1 in the state with Mr. Baseball finalists on there. So I think it's pretty likely that they'll be over there unless there's a massive upset. Now, their soccer team, Greenville soccer team, who's been to the state championship every year since 2014, they've been to the Spring Fling, lost last night. Huge upset. So they're done. So, I mean, stranger things have happened, but and the Providence Academy and Division II baseball team is also really good. So I would expect they'll probably be a part of that as well.
You might be looking around.
They are a heck of a story because I think last year was their first year of competition.
And they made it to the state championship game.
And they made it to the state championship game before losing to Columbia Academy, who will play to continue to try to get back. They've got 2 games later this evening. So who knows? Maybe we could see a Providence Academy, Columbia Academy rematch in the finals.
And I can see you again in the press box in person.
There you go. Come on. All for that. Heather Williams.
By the way, before I leave, have either one of you watched NASCAR Full Speed yet?
I have not.
I've slipped. The fact that it's only 4 or 5 episodes works against me because I'm like, when I do watch it, I could probably watch it all in one sitting. So that's kind of prompted my laziness a little bit. But have you finished? You said this might be your homework assignment.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying in episode 3, there's a very familiar voice in it.
Oh. Gentlemen, we call that a tease.
You can tell we haven't watched it. Otherwise, we probably would have made reference to that at some point.
That very familiar voice.
My phone blew up. It started blowing up. I guess it was released on Wednesday, either Thursday or Friday. Is that your voice? Is that you?
Isn't that awesome?
It was funny. I had no idea. I mean, I frequently end up in the background of those things just by being around so much during the playoffs, especially. I was in the background a couple of times in season 1, but they actually used a little bit because I was one of the few people television people. I think I was maybe the only television person that was around. Thanks to a friend of mine, by the way, Samantha Waddell, who works in PR at Charlotte Motor Speedway, who called me back to the track when Alex Bowman got disqualified in the playoffs last year. So I was like the only television person that was there that had that on their story. So in fact, even the Netflix crew was gone. So they did have a couple of shots. They just used my voice of me saying, as if NASCAR needed any more drama, Alex Bowman was disqualified. But I think it was just because they had no other choice because I was the only one there. But, you know, it was still cool.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Be sure and check Heather out in episode number 3 of
Full
the
Speed
Netflix series.
NASCAR
Full
Full
Speed.
Speed.
We're gonna browse your IMDb page a little bit later just to make sure you're on the up and up.
That's the only time I think maybe I got in asking a question in either the Bubba Wallace documentary. I know I'm in that talking to him, but I don't know if they use my voice. And then also the USA documentary that was like Full Speed that they attempted to do before they Netflixed it, which would have been 3 years ago. I'm in that too. I don't know if I was asking a question during media day or again, it was just me talking and other talking going on around it. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
Sounds like you might need an agent, Heather.
Yeah. I don't want to give up my money. I'll be my own agent.
There you go. Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Heather, as always, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you, I guess, in a couple of weeks and hopefully in Murfreesboro next week.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys then.
Sounds good. Heather. Thank you. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today. When we come back, we will get into the grab bag. Stay tuned.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing weather report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. This is the grab bag. And we had an Eastern Conference semifinal come to an end in the NBA as the Indiana Pacers put the Cleveland Cavaliers out of their misery, 114-105, winning that series 4-1. And it really does. It was, again, it was not a if, it was a win for the Pacers and the Cavaliers, and win was last night, obviously.
Yeah. The game starts and Cleveland is up 19. Everything goes from bad to worse every step of the way in this series. You're thinking, okay, we got something here. They're playing like the Cavs of old. That was fool's gold as the Pacers deliver a knockout blow. They immediately erase that deficit. The second and third quarters in particular, they really kind of found their offensive groove. And yeah, it is a frustrating end for Cleveland, who sounds in the immediate aftermath like they're just going to run it back. There might be some tinkering that has to occur with their roster. They'll probably one or two guys may end up coming or going, but by and large, they're going to try and run back because, man, everything was set in motion. They won 60-plus games and then seemingly on a collision course with the Celtics, and then just did not – once the injuries occurred and they kind of freaked out. Now, granted, this sounds like I'm bashing the Pacers. They've deserved and they were scrappy. I mean, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but the Cavs are kind of the real team we're circling in this equation. It was a tough one for them to go out. They just got battered and bruised by, at the end of this series, a better Indiana Pacers team.
Yeah. And I wonder, Wade, if Cleveland feels like it's going to be a little bit more prudent and a little bit more expeditious to just run it back with what's going on with Boston, because they're on the brink of being eliminated as well. They've got the Knicks coming in tonight for Game 5. The Knicks are up 3-1 in this one, and obviously they'll be without Jason Tatum.
Yeah, and, this will be a real interesting offseason for the Cavs, especially for the Celtics, because, Tatum is out for the year, practically all next year at this point. So it feels like we were talking about a three-peat might be in order for the Celtics, the way they won last year and the way they were progressing this year. Now, all of a sudden, everything seemingly looks like it could be up in the air for them going forward. But the Pacers, again, have played well. They got off to such a bad start that I kind of wrote them off early in this season. But they played great ball the second half of the season, and they certainly have played great in the second half. Nembhard, Halliburton, of course, but Miles Turner, I mean, he just kind of whipped and dominated Jarrett Allen on the boards throughout this series, and that was a matchup that Cleveland dramatically seemed like they were the favorite in. So everybody really on Indiana kind of just stepped up. Siakam even had 20-plus last night. I mean, they kind of just all pitched in, and it was a collective curb stomping of the number one seed.
Again, the Knicks go into Boston tonight looking to close. What do you see the Knicks needing to do, or is there anything out of the ordinary that they need to do to finish this one off tonight?
I mean, to me, it feels kind of like the Cleveland game last night. I will not be shocked if Boston somehow still rallies. At the end of the day, you do have the Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals MVP at your disposal in Brown. And when Jaylen Brown is at his best, he can't take the Celtics to that A+, that S-tier team that they are when they're at their best with Tatum in the lineup, but he could certainly kind of guide them to a win tonight. Vegas, however, got them at a 4.5-point favorite. We saw Cleveland last night above 5.5. I don't know, man. It just feels like they can't shake these Knicks. Pesky as they are, Brunson just has continuously been a thorn in their side the entire series. I will not be shocked if Boston wins, but it kind of just does feel like, yeah, the door is closing and it's inevitable tonight. We'll find a little bit more about the backbone of these Celtics tonight more than anything.
Yeah, what did we find out about Denver and OKC last night? The Thunder picking up a 112-105 victory to take a 3-2 lead in the West.
Man, we found out two of the best teams in the NBA had to meet in the semifinals of the Western Conference, which kind of stinks. Give me 7 games of Nuggets and Clippers forever. Give me 7 games of Nuggets and Thunder forever. That was one of the best playoff games I can recall in recent memory. And it stinks that Denver loses by 7 because it was a tie game with about a minute and a half left. And Oklahoma City, what we saw, though, Mo, was we saw OKC take a baby step. This team has had expectations the last 2 seasons, kind of fell on their face last year, got bopped in the nose by Denver a couple nights ago. They took baby steps down the stretch, got a massive 3 from Lou Dort, got a massive corner 3 from Jalen Williams. SGA is going to get his. He's the presumptive MVP. Mm-hmm. On the other side, We saw Jokic go nuclear, kind of like I thought he might at some point in this series. And it wasn't good enough because the role players, Porter missing a couple big threes, Westbrook airballs a three. They didn't have the extra oomph that OKC did last night. And that was the difference in the game. I'll be curious to see if Denver responds. I think they will. It still feels like we're going 7.
Joker 44 and 15.
Unbelievable.
That's pretty nuclear. But like you said, SGA finishes with 31, 1 of 6.
When he hit the three, just like a dad in the swimming pool, just like chunks it up over Chet Holmgren and just casually drains a three to tie the game late. I was like, oh my God, this is the most ridiculous sequence of basketball I've ever seen. He had Holmgren in the torture chamber, but there was nobody else for Denver last night down the stretch. Even Murray kind of wilted in the fourth quarter in terms of shot making. And that was the difference. But this series has been so fun. And last night was an all-timer.
Does Golden State have anything for the T-Wolves going into Minnesota tonight?
Conventional wisdom says no. Especially not if Jimmy Butler's only going to shoot 9 shots. I'll tell you that much. Jimmy Butler kind of rightly or wrongly, you could use the word selfish at times, whether that's getting out of a situation or playoff Jimmy, where was playoff Jimmy? Why only shoot 9 times? He was very hesitant to shoot last game. This is win or lose, JB. You can't lose in this situation, really, because nobody expects you guys to win without Curry. You can take as many shots as you want, and nobody's going to fault you for it. If he can will them to a victory, that's the only conceivable path in my mind. I feel like Minnesota takes it.
Mikael Granlund 3, Winnipeg nothing last night. The former Predator with a hat trick as the Dallas Stars go up 3-1 in that series on the ice.
Yeah, bad news for the Jets. Somebody other than Rantanen finally got scoring, and that is essentially a death sentence for the Jets. Rantanen is almost capable of beating them by himself, and he kind of has in this series thus far. But when Granlund gets going, yeah, that's good night. That feels like a death blow for Winnipeg. They will attempt to rally, and they might even snag a game at home on Thursday night, but it feels like the door is closed on them.
Florida goes to Toronto. That series is tied at 2 games apiece. Edmonton looking to close out Vegas at Vegas tonight. Those are your 2 conference semifinal matchups that you'll see tonight. What are you thinking?
Should be a great game in that opener. I feel like Vegas, they got a puncher's chance playing at home especially, but it feels like they have run out of luck after scraping by in the first round, and their only win is that ridiculous ending we saw on Saturday night. Meanwhile, Florida and Toronto, I really don't know how to call this one tonight. Both home teams have won. Both home teams have looked great. Maybe Florida, though, has learned a little something after those 2 home victories. Maybe they find a way to get a win. They're a small favorite in tonight's game, despite being played north of the border.
It is off season for the NFL. Again, the 2025 schedule will officially be announced later this evening. I'm sure we'll talk about it on tomorrow's show. But the Bengals, it sounds as if they're likely to be playing this season without defensive end Trey Hendrickson. And when we've talked about the Bengals over the last few weeks, it's typically been that defense is not very good. And it stands to get worse if Hendrickson doesn't show up, and he says he's not. Doesn't like his contract, says things have gotten personal between him and the team, and he will not play this season under his current contract, he says.
Are we surprised? I mean, we're talking about one of the cheaper organizations and the cheaper ownerships in the NFL. Are we surprised by this?
One of the cheaper organizations and one of the better players at his position. And he says, I'm not going to apologize for the rates of the defensive ends being paid in the National Football League. I mean, he's seen Max Crosby get paid. He's seen Danielle Hunter get paid. He's seen Myles Garrett get paid. And he's like, you got to pay me, boy. And Cincinnati's saying no. So as of right now, it sounds like we're at an impasse, and that ain't good for Cincinnati.
No, it's not good. And Cincinnati, they're one of those teams that they made that great little run with Burrow, but Burrow has been banged up so much. Everybody kind of has this maybe inflated opinion of the Bengals. But unless it all comes together and everybody is clicking at the exact same time, it doesn't feel like they're in that great a shape. And the fact that you have a porous defense, and yeah, Hendrickson, he's a top 10 defensive end and perhaps worthy of that. But like I said, we're talking about a franchise that historically is cheap and on the cheaper end, not just with players, but also with salaries and benefits for coaches and staff members. So not surprised by this. I'll be fascinated to see how it plays out, because if they don't have him, they will really Burrow may like that, though. Maybe Burrow tries to score 100 every game and just see what happens.
And if they don't have him, who does? So
right.
There's that as well. Hour number 1 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday wraps up right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back for hour number 2. In the final segment, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. We'll also bring you CHRISTINA de NICOLA of MLB.com talking Miami Marlins and Ryan Weathers. So stick around after this.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
May 14th, 1988, Ken Griffey Sr. doubled with 2 outs in the top of the 19th inning, scoring Deion James and Dale Murphy with the ultimate winning runs as the Atlanta Braves won 7-5 at St. Louis. The extra base hit made Jose Oquendo the Cardinals' 8th moundsman, the first non-pitcher to get a decision since Rocky Colavito picked up the win for the New York Yankees in relief with 2 2/3 scoreless innings on August 25th, 1968, in a 6-5 victory against Detroit. Colavito also homered in the contest, as did Yankees third baseman Bobby Cox. That was this day in Braves history. Yesterday will go down in Braves history because it was the first time in 42 games that the 2025 Atlanta Braves have been at 500 with their 5-2 win over the Washington Nationals. The Braves are 21-21 coming into play today. Yay.
Can't make the playoffs being below 500, so a step in the right direction.
It's not likely. So, yeah, happy 500 day here on May 14th.
It's the little victories. I like what you're doing. It's the little victories that just keep you going. Don't lose sight of the big picture.
Obviously, it has been an uphill climb, literally, but the Braves snapped a string of 7 straight one-run ball games with that 5-2 victory last night. They were 4-3 in those one-run games, but still, a little breathing room is never a bad thing. And Drake Baldwin helped provide it, going 3 for 4 with a home run and a double. The rookie in limited playing time continues to impress. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see Drake Baldwin pick up an outfielder's glove, because he's forcing his way into the lineup somewhere. I mean, you can't not play Sean Murphy, but I don't think you can not play Drake Baldwin either. And unfortunately, they're at the same position. And, you can't DH one of those guys either, because Marcell Ozuna has been one of the most consistent offensive performers. But in an offense that has really been lacking, you got to find a spot for that rookie at this point.
Yeah, ride the hot hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Schwellenbach picks up the victory. Pierce Johnson getting the save. I didn't get to see the game because I was covering soccer last night, but I don't know if Iglesias was just down last night or if there's more to Pierce Johnson getting the ball in the 9th inning in a save situation. We will obviously keep an eye on that. But again, the Braves get to 500. Since that 0-7 start that we are trying to forget, they are 21-14. That is a winning percentage of 600. Only 4 teams in Major League Baseball have played 600 ball over the course of this season. Mets, Dodgers, Padres, Tigers. So that's got to be something worth noting, I would think, that they shook that off and they've won 3 out of 5 since. So all may not be lost. I know it didn't look great getting there, but they got there, and we'll see if they can actually go over 500 in this 6:15 matchup tonight. It's Bryce Elder going for the host, 2-2 with a 4.97 ERA. Mitchell Parker, 3-3 with a 3.97, gets the start for the Nats, and it'll bear watching to see if the Braves can go over 500 or if they go back under after one game. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and there's a pack. There's a pack of 500 game or two either way teams in the NL, and if you win a couple, man, Atlanta could leapfrog. May not necessarily lead to leapfrogging teams in the standings, but they could leapfrog and kind of get their name closer. You don't want to be mentioned in the same breath as the Nationals, Marlins, and Pirates. Rockies are kind of in their own little stratosphere, but that's the situation Atlanta was in a couple days ago. Now a little breathing room and start getting a few more wins. And this team is on paper too good. And that's the wild thing about baseball is it's an unsolved game, but by and large it takes a catastrophic failure or crazy injuries for a talented team not to perform well or not to at least meet kind of a certain win total. So chalk it up to a little bit of anomaly, chalk it up to a tough schedule to start. I don't know what you want to chalk it up to, but Atlanta's creeping on. They're playing well.
Yeah. Nobody else had to start their season against the Dodgers and the Padres on the road. So there's that. But Houston getting a walk-off home run from Isaac Paredes in a 2-1 victory over the Royals yesterday. We chose not to bring that up while Heather was on, but
polite.
Nice win for the Astros.
Yeah, good win. Got a couple of homers in the win. Pena had one earlier I saw. So nice, offense getting it done even in a low-scoring game. Kind of like we thought the way the pitching matchups the day before were set up nice. They were set up nice yesterday. Valdez had a good game. Bubik is a guy that kind of kept my eyes on him. He probably won't win the Cy Young. He won't be in any major discussions, but he is an above average pitcher for Kansas City. They got some sneaky good pitchers on that staff there. So it was a good win for Houston. Get the guys to a 2-1 victory and see if you can make 21-20 on the year. We'll take it.
Valdez with a nice start, 9 strikeouts,
yeah.
6 in the third inning. So yeah, and got a rookie making his debut tonight for the Astros, Colton Gordon, who was unbeaten in 4 decisions at AAA Sugarland with a 2.55 ERA. He will get the ball for the hosts. It's Michael Lorenzen, 3-3 with a 3.57, toe in the rubber for the Royals in this one, as that series continues at 7-10. We mentioned the Sounds were rained out yesterday. They were making that game up as part of a doubleheader down at Memphis. That first game started at 12:05. It was 11-0 Redbirds earlier. And let's see. Okay, so game 2 is underway. But what happened with game 1? Come on. The website is not cooperating with me, so I can't get. Oh, here we go. It's still not giving me the early score. I'll have to get back with you on that. But
maybe we don't want to know.
That could very well be, given that it was 11-0 early on. No, it finished up 11-0. 11-0 was the final. Game 2 is ongoing, as we said. It's no score in the bottom of the first there, so they just got that one started. Got some news late yesterday from the baseball world that is certainly worth noting. Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball, announced yesterday, let me make sure I get the phraseology right on this. Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson have been removed from the league's permanently ineligible list. The decision by Manfred allows the Hit King to be considered for induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame, posthumously, obviously, since he died in September. And his death basically is what Manfred pins this decision to. In my view, once an individual has passed away, the purposes of Rule 21 have been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list. Anyone who has been deemed permanently ineligible is ineligible for consideration for the Baseball Hall of Fame. So both Pete Rose, who was declared permanently ineligible for being found to have bet on baseball during his managerial career with the Reds, his managerial career, not his playing career, and Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was part of the Black Sox scandal. He and some teammates conspired to lose the 1919 World Series intentionally. Those 8 players were acquitted 2 years later, but were banned from the game regardless. Jackson always denied betting on or gambling on the World Series, but be that as it may, he was again banned from the game. His ban is now over. Pete Rose's ban is now over. Both are eligible again to be considered for induction into the Hall of Fame. So I guess next it goes to him getting on a ballot and it going to a vote of the voting members of the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Feels like this has felt inevitable since his passing, right? It just kind of always has felt like whether MLB, this was their way of perhaps sticking it to Pete, or one way of it just felt like when he passed, the outcry was there. And that was even before the president made his comment. So Manfred cowering to the public pressure, or perhaps a social media post, who knows? But it felt inevitable. And it also kind of in a weird way feels like Shoeless Joe from beyond the grave is like looking at Pete Rose saying, hey, thanks, partner. You've hooked me up too. So I'll be fascinated to see how this plays out. I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine they would be voted in short order. You would think, right?
It feels it, and I've said this before, it feels tough for a player who is your all-time leader in a statistical category such as hits with 4,256. He's also the major league record holder for games played with 3,562. But it feels like a statistical leader such as that, it's tough for them to not be in a hall honoring some of your game's all-time greats. And I think my biggest question, bigger than whether the voters vote Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson in now that they are eligible for being voted on, is, what does this mean for some of your folks who have been associated with steroid use, specifically Barry Bonds, who is your all-time home run leader?
I mean, that's immediately what I thought as well. And by the way, did you see Bonds and A-Rod sitting courtside at the T-Wolves game the other night? They looked good together.
Oh, goodness. No, I did not. Wow.
A-Rod was cheering on his guys, and he had Bonds. They was out in the Bay Area, but they were sitting together. I was like, man, two Hall of Famers by my estimation there. To your point,
by a lot of folks' estimations, obviously, A-Rod, obviously part of the ownership of the T-Wolves, and I guess he got Barry in, put him on the list. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's good to know people.
I would think, it'd be, if you're going to, I don't know if you want to call it bend the rules or how you phrase it, but if you're going to, now, I mean, if I'm Barry Bonds, if I'm A-Rod, I'm looking at these guys. From the grave, like I said, and I'm like, well, hey, you let them in. What's our deal here? So, I mean, if you're going to open that up, why not this?
I do think it bears repeating, though, that there is a sign in every professional baseball clubhouse that says you can't bet on baseball. And it doesn't say you can't bet against your team or anything like that. It says you can't bet on baseball.
Does it still say that, or does it say you can't bet on baseball ... unless sponsored by DraftKings?
That's the question.
That's the question we have to ask now.
And that's a fair question because I've not been in a clubhouse since then. But
you're banned from baseball if you use FanDuel, but if you use our Major League Baseball partner DraftKings, then we might turn a blind eye.
We might can work something out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm sure this will be discussed more in the coming days, weeks, months, until something happens one way or the other. I think I saw somewhere that the earliest Pete could be inducted would be 2027. So it wouldn't even be next year that he would go on the ballot. I think it would go to one of those subcommittees at this point for him to be considered. So we'll keep an eye on that. We just had Thomas Harding on yesterday from MLB.com. He becomes a voter with this coming ballot. He can tell us more about it. So we may be reaching back out to him here shortly. Right now, though, we have coming to us from MLB.com in our next segment here on Main Street Sports Today, CHRISTINA NICOLA, who covers the Miami Marlins. They get ready to take on the host Chicago Cubs later this evening. And on the bump for the Marlins will be former Loretto standout Ryan Weathers, not David, Ryan Weathers. Going to talk to CHRISTINA a little bit more about that when we come back from this break. Stay with us.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Super Speedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
You gotta go outside.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. In our final segment, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. Right now, though, we are joined from Wrigley Field by CHRISTINA de NICOLA of MLB.com, getting ready for the Marlins-Cubs matchup later this evening. And starting for the Marlins will be former Loretta High School left-hander Ryan Weathers. CHRISTINA, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I just hopped out of my ride share at Wrigley, as you can see by some of the brick. So happy to be here.
Well, it's awfully warm here. How is it there? Is it nice?
It depends if you're near the lake. It differs by 15 to 20 degrees. I was on the lake earlier where you couldn't see in front of you because of the intense fog, but the wind keeps it cool. So yeah, it's definitely cooler than Miami for sure.
You know, I went to Chicago. It's been some years ago now in August, and I've felt what you're feeling right there. Going to a game at Wrigley Field, if you're not careful, you can be underdressed for that occasion, even in August with that wind kicks up off the lake. So be careful as you venture toward Wrigley.
Yeah, I got my jacket.
There you go. I wore shorts. I was not comfortable. It was a sad day. But CHRISTINA, how excited is everybody in the Marlins organization to get Ryan on the mound tonight in a Major League Baseball game?
Right. Well, huge. I mean, we saw when he was healthy last year before the fluke injury, he had a breakout year, sub-4 ERA. Spring training, he had the highest velo he's had in his entire career. He was dominating, and then he had the setback. And the way that the starting pitching, it struggled in the early going, including with Sandy Alcantara. So Ryan Weathers is a very important reinforcement that they're going to need.
And again, to your point, was pitching really well last year before he had the finger situation. What took place with the forearm strain? I mean, is that anything out of the ordinary, or is that just something that just happens with pitchers sometimes?
Just happens. It's interesting because it happened, or he reported it the day after his, last spring start, and he looked really good. And I had talked to him, and he was feeling very good. He was very confident, but unfortunately, the way the state of baseball is, it almost feels like it's an inevitability with these guys, especially with how fast they're throwing and how much breaking stuff, how often they're throwing it. But yeah, for him, I remember after it happened, he wasn't worried because sometimes that can lead to Tommy John. And he had told us yesterday, like he took the 10 days off, no throw, right after, he was diagnosed. And then he's felt good ever since. He hasn't felt it. So that's very encouraging.
That is very encouraging, because I was going to ask you, between that and the finger ailment from last year, are there any kind of doubts or concerns or questions from a durability standpoint with Ryan?
I don't think so. Like the finger last year was the fluke injury where he went to cover home and like got hit by, was it either the ball he tried to barehanded or got hit by Yelich as he was sliding into home. So that it was nothing arm related. This obviously is. But like even I did a story over the off season, he had lost some weight. He kind of figured out it was some sort of like medical genetic condition where he was eating properly, but he couldn't, take off the weight. And so he's been eating healthier. He still has kept it off. He's got, better muscle and stuff. So he's setting himself up, to stay healthy and to be durable.
You mentioned his velo. He was up to 99.8 earlier this month. His fastest fastball at any point in his career, I think. I mean, if he can come back from this like the $6 million man, stronger than he was before, I mean, what you really got a lot to look forward to, I guess.
Absolutely. You don't see left-handers that can throw 99 plus very often. And then he was telling us yesterday his off-speed stuff is kind of where it's been. And then he has more confidence in this hard slider that he's starting to throw. More so than I guess he was experimenting with it a bit in spring training, but now as the months have passed and he's had more time to kind of work on it, he feels comfortable going into his season debut tonight to use it.
And Christina, after you had spoke with Ryan, he took it kind of a step further, and he had posted on social kind of transparency, saying he got up to 238. But the part that really was fascinating to me, by going through those diet and off-season changes, that it kind of improved his mental game and his mental focus. And then obviously we run into an injury. I guess what I'm curious, where do you think his mental focus is right now after doing the right things, but then still having a setback this offseason?
I think he has, a peace of mind, because at the time he didn't quite know why, he'd eat clean and healthy, but didn't know why he wasn't seeing the results. Now he has that kind of covered. I think, with the arm stuff, as I said before, unfortunately, it's happening. It happens to guys, right? Like for so long, we thought Sandy Alcantara was such a clean delivery. How many innings he had thrown, like he was, untouchable. Same thing with Garrett Cole. But I think by him, following his routine, he's probably, with rehab, you come back stronger usually because you can't throw as much. Mm-hmm. So you're usually in better shape. And then just mentally, because of how much patience you have to have, like he's in a good spot. I asked yesterday what would constitute a good outing today. And he said, just the fact that I'll have one because I'm healthy. And that's, I think, says it all, that he's coming back to the mound so he feels good.
Yeah, that's about as good of a mental check the box as you could imagine there, to me at least. Christina, also, he joins the team late 23, and we've talked about it, his run last year. How does the clubhouse, he had the goods until that kind of injury in the second half of the season. Is there going to be any sort of emotional lift in the clubhouse by having this guy back, even though he's only been there a relatively short amount of time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in spring training, he and Edward Cabrera went down within a week span, and that completely changed the complexion of the rotation. You had Connor Gillespie, who started in the rotation out of camp, who's more of a swingman, and he's actually a AAA right now. He really struggled. Valente Belloso, who really broke out as a rookie last year with, I think, 13 or so starts, did really well again last night. But, these aren't guys that are dudes, right? They're not Sandy Alcantara types. Now Ryan Weathers, a former first-round pick. Max Myers, a former first-round pick. And last time I checked, I think the Marlins are first or second in terms of highest ERA in baseball. And so having someone of his caliber and his type of stuff being back, I think it puts less pressure on maybe the offense to have to score super early, or vice versa. Like it's a lift, because he is a guy with that kind of talent who has a proven track record, even though it's still short compared to veterans.
Yeah.
And to that point, Christina, you're not talking about a guy who necessarily has been counted on in his career. I mean, traded by San Diego just because they couldn't figure things out. That I think that was probably more them than him. But be that as it may, it's got to be a little tough when you get traded the first time by the team that drafted you and that kind of thing. But you say that you feel like he is in a better place from a mental approach and that kind of thing as well. But is he ready to step into a situation where he's got to be a dude?
I think so. That was one of the things I asked I believe it was after, Jesus Luzardo got traded. How do you fill the rotation now? Like it was one of those things everyone has to step up. It's true because, Ryan Weathers is back, but Sandy needs to return to form. He hasn't. Max Meyer got off to a really good start with his first, 5 or so starts. And now he's kind of come back down to earth a bit. Edward Cabrera still isn't showing that frontline potential, but he's making progress, not throwing as many balls. But yeah, I think it's more just he doesn't have to be the dude because, the dude is still on the team in Sandy Alcantara. It's more like I can be a complementary piece. I could be the best version of myself. The version that I was seeing in spring training that was, developing into that next step, that next level.
Are you surprised Sandy Alcantara is still with this team? Because, coming off the injury from last year, there was talk that he was just going into spring training to prove that he was healthy and then he was going to get moved.
Well, after last year with the very early trade to Luis Arias in early May, that's something you don't see ever,
Right.
With Sandy, I think, it's still trying to get back, shake off the rust. I think it's taken a lot longer than he expected and the Marlins expected. But yeah, there's no, whether they do or not, I think they will, but there's no rush, right? Because the demand will be up there. He's got a player option and I believe like 2 years. So he's got like 2.5, a year and a half worth of control. So there's no rush to do this yet. You have to get the right package because of anybody on the team, that's the guy who's worth the most. And like, if you want to take that next step to, speed up this rebuild, you have to get this right. You need to get game changers, whether they're like those top 100 prospects, but also maybe a guy who's already in the big leagues that is either blocked or is kind of not expendable, but like that team can not do away with. But like, yeah, if you're going to trade Sandy, you better be getting something worthy of him because even with his struggles so far this year, he's still got elite velocity, as we've seen. He still has the stuff. He still has that reputation. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, that's it. Until he does get moved, what are the expectations for this team at this point? Right now, they're in last place in the East, a game behind the Nationals. And, the pitching has been what it's been, as you said. What is this team looking to get done?
It's still the same as it was at the beginning of the season, even spring training from day one. It's, they obviously want to compete, and they, for the most part, have been in games, but it's about developing. You need to see which of these guys, because they're so inexperienced as a whole, they can be counted on moving forward. Who are those guys? Who are those dudes? Is it Xavier Edwards? Can he prove to be a shortstop? Is it Connor Norrie proving to be a cornerstone? He started out the year hurt. Another perfect example is Kyle Stowers. What a pleasant surprise he's been so far. He came over in the Trevor Rogers deal ahead of the deadline. And, it was a disappointment. And he admitted, he was putting pressure on himself and whatnot. And he's been one of baseball's biggest surprises and breakout stars so far. And so that, more than anything, I think, is to see which of these guys you can count on moving forward that you can build around. Because there are pitchers in the pipeline still, whether it's, guys like Robbie Snelling in AA, high A Beloit's got Thomas White. You're already seeing, catcher Agustin Ramirez, one of the top 100 prospects, up sooner than I think any of us thought, but kind of based on injuries and then him, forcing the issue at AAA Jacksonville, he's up here. So it's also going to be seeing those prospects getting their first taste of the big leagues and seeing what they can do. So I think that, with the division, with the Mets, with the Braves, the Phillies, where, they spent all this money and they're ready to compete, right? Because they all have rosters full of veterans. Like the Marlins, more than anything, it's to see if these prospects and these players can be part of that core moving forward.
You know, and we talked to Thomas Harding, who covers the Rockies for MLB.com yesterday, Christina. Obviously, the Rockies made a move at the top with Bud Black over the weekend. You know, is there anything like that in the offing in Miami, do you think? Or are they just going to kind of ride this thing out, realizing that the expectations realistically aren't that great for this team at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a new coaching staff. They knew going in that they're teaching young guys. You know, it'd be naive or foolish to tell guys, you know, more than half the roster has less than 1 year service time. Hey, you're going to make the play. You know, like, it's just, they know what they got. They're here to teach. They're here to, the perfect example is asked yesterday to manager Clayton McCullough. Just, you know, there's good moments in games and there are also teachable moments. And that's part of the thing is they're balancing. It's like a game isn't necessarily all night. They want to win, right? That's disappointing. But when you see, let's say, Liam Hicks throw out a runner, or, you know, you see Xavier Edwards get picked off, these are all learning lessons. These are all building blocks so that you either don't make that mistake again or you have confidence from making a certain play.
You asked Ryan what would be a good outing for him today. What do you feel like a good outing for him today would be, or what kind of feedback are you getting from other folks on what would constitute a good outing for him?
I mean, the good outing would be the team being either in the lead or within striking distance when he exits the game, keeping them in the game. The way that the pitching staff has been handled so far, the rotation, they don't really like to have them go 3 turns through the order, especially if it's a tough lineup like the Cubs or the Dodgers. But Ryan is one of those guys, because of his stuff and how good he can be, I would assume would get a not as tight of a leash where he could face a lineup a third time. Coming back for the first time, not sure. But yeah, keeping the team in the game, that's what I think all they could ask for. Throwing strikes, because there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a guy on the mound and just cannot find the strike zone. It's just demoralizing for the defense, you know, the coaching staff. It's tough for us to watch in the press box because it's just, you know, bad pace of game and everything.
And if they get that lead, hopefully do a better job than last night's performance as they fall late, right?
Right, and that's one of the things too is they mix and match guys. So Jesus Tinoco actually saved the game on Saturday, but they've also had Calvin Fauché or Anthony Bender save games. So it's there's no set guy. There's no Tanner Scott at the back of the bullpen anymore like they used to have. And once again, that goes back to these, you know, moments where guys can prove themselves or, you know, set themselves up for roles moving forward. And they play matchups. And so last night they thought their matchup, Jesus Tinoco was the guy.
CHRISTINA NICOLA of MLB.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, getting ready for the Marlins and Cubs and the 2025 Major League debut of former Loretto standout Ryan Weathers. We'll be keeping an eye on it. CHRISTINA, we appreciate you taking some time with us to get us ready for that, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I hope you enjoy the Chicago City and beyond from the north side.
Absolutely. Looks like fun. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
All right. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA Columbia. When we come back, it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. Stick around.
Are you the biggest race fan? Our friends at Rackley Roofing want to send you to the Rackley 200 Craftsman Truck Series race at the Nashville Superspeedway on May 30th. Go to your favorite Main Street Media page and click the Enter to Win banner. We will see you at the track.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. a good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the PIC Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. And before we get into the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country, Wade, you got some breaking news?
Well, we got some scoreboard watching going on. We talked about, man, there's so many. There's like 2 double headers going on at the major league level today. I think every team is playing. And so some teams playing twice. But we opened the show with the rundown, talking about the UT Southern softball team. They're in Fayette, Missouri, on the campus of Central Methodist, playing that 5-team regional. They won their first game, lost their second game. You see, you've been around enough tournaments. Everybody watching the show has been around enough tournaments. You're never out of it till you get beat twice. They clawed back with that win over the Canadians last night, the University of British Columbia. But then today, they knocked off the number 1 seed, LSU Alexandria, as we told you guys at the Open in extra innings. Right now was a 1-1 game versus undefeated tournament host Central Methodist, Missouri. Central Methodist has tacked on some runs, though, in the bottom of the 4th. So as we sit, they're in the top of the 5th. Firehawks are still in there. They're still battling, and hopefully we'll make a little noise down the stretch. If they win this game, they just get to do it all over again, but tomorrow's game would be winner take all to go to Columbus, Georgia for the NAIA National Tournament final site. So Firehawks trying to make a little hay here down the stretch, it sounds like.
Well, and speaking of NAIA stick and ball postseason play, Cumberland has also fought out of the losers bracket. It sounds like, if I can make sense of this, no, I've got the wrong bracket here. Cumberland has defeated Indiana Tech 8-3 earlier today. They have set up a matchup later this afternoon against Tennessee Wesleyan. Again, Cumberland coming out of the losers bracket there. They will play their 3rd elimination game. So I think they lost their opener to Columbia College, and they've not lost since, obviously. Been backs to the wall ever since, but defeated Indiana Tech earlier today, 8-3, and will play later today against Tennessee Wesleyan. So
Coach Hunt said that regional was loaded, and that bears it out, right? I mean, only one of those teams will get to move on to play Columbia, either Cumberland or Tennessee Wesleyan, and both are kind of NAIA powerhouses. So 5 o'clock if you want some good NAIA baseball, which is sneaky good baseball. Should be fun. Real quick, one final shout out. Friend of our show here, multiple time guest, UT Southern coach Bill Riddle, men's and women's tennis coach. The men for UT Southern made their first trip to the national tournament since 2010. Some of them kids was in diapers, I think, the last time that UT Southern / Martin Methodist made it. They got bounced, though, by the University of Cumberland yesterday, but wanted to give Coach Riddle a little shout out. He was just down in the dumps, obviously, as you might expect, but it's hard to be too down in the dumps when you got an itinerary like that guy. He's probably on a plane headed who knows where right now. So,
yeah, looks like Cumberland lost 5-1 to Columbia College in their opener, bounced back yesterday with a 10-0 win over Louisiana Christian, and then again defeated Indiana Tech earlier today, 8-3. So that's where we're at. They've got Tennessee Wesleyan later today in an elimination game.
I'm glad you said that, because I got to check LSU Shreveport.
Are they still unbeaten?
Yes, it appears so. 51-0 as
so they've not played yet, because I think that's what Jim Derry told us. They were 51-0 going in.
51-0 entering the tournament. Yeah, they knocked off Ottawa, Kansas, it looks like already. They've knocked off Johnson, Tennessee already. Yeah, looks like they are sitting in the catbird seat. They're going to meet one of those teams, Johnson, Tennessee, or Mid-American Christian, Oklahoma. So LSU Shreveport. I haven't kept up with NAIA baseball as much this year because UT Southern had a tough year. But the fact that a team could end up like 65-0 or something ridiculous to win the title, and yeah, you could lose a game and still, win the championship the way the bracket is set up. But the fact you could go undefeated with that kind of record, that would be insane. That is a storyline that I will kind of keep my eyes on.
That really is nuts. So Columbia,
you could maybe even say that's wild and wacky.
I would dare say that 53-0 is pretty wild and certainly wacky as well. Yeah, Cumberland and Tennessee Wesleyan will play again at 5 o'clock. I guess that's Eastern time, probably. The winner will go to the championship game against Columbia College out of Missouri. Columbia College has to lose twice. First game will be at 10 Central Time. Second game, if necessary, will follow tomorrow. So Cumberland looking for three more wins over the next couple of days to try to get out to Lewiston, Idaho for the 13th time in the NAIA World Series. We'll try to keep you abreast of that as it goes. Let's get into Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Let's start. We've talked a little bit about Louisiana. Let's start in South Louisiana. Last night, South Cameron High School in Grand Chenier, Louisiana, held its graduation ceremonies for one student, Diana Lopez. And Diana is a junior at South Cameron, but graduated early as a dual enrollment student. And again, she was the only student to walk in ceremonies at South Cameron last night. Has a 4.0 grade point average, graduates summa cum laude. And apparently her classmates left South Cameron following Hurricane Laura. The entire class relocated with the exception, the entire class of 2025 relocated. And again, if Diana had not decided to graduate early, they would not have had a graduating class of 2025. So as it was, she walked alone last night.
Man, my first thought. What do you think?
It's kudos to the school administrators and that kind of thing for holding a graduation ceremony for one student, because I think a lot of other places would have found a way to just give her diploma in the principal's office or something like that, rather than putting together the full shindig. So I'm happy to see that they celebrated that single student.
That was my thought. Is I'm happy for her, and it's a cool achievement. It's obviously kind of a wilder and wackier story, but them school administrator. I mean, it's like the mafia, trying to offer you something. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure you really want to do this? Or like, man, we could. It'd be nice to have a little night at home without having to do extracurricular activities. Instead, we all got to come out. I'm curious. Yeah, did all of the professors or all the teachers, did they come out and do the full regalia and everything? Who soundtracked that thing? Did they do Pomp and Circumstance? I mean, I got a few more questions about this.
It might have been the shortest Pomp and Circumstance you've ever heard. That's for sure. Again, a one-person graduating class at South Cameron High School, but that one person, again, graduated with a 4.0 plus. She's got more than $50,000 in scholarship money. She will be attending Northwestern State University and pursue a nursing degree. School officials say that they've got 14 juniors enrolled at South Cameron, so next year's graduation class should be bigger. I'd hope so.
I would hope so. I'm also wondering, is she by default the valedictorian, and did she give a speech? How does that work?
And if so, who did she give it to?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got your parents, a few family members, maybe some siblings or something in the crowd. And then everybody, the professors are sitting there, administrators, and wrap it up. We're ready to get out of here. I got a few more questions about this.
Yeah, there are plenty of questions. Inquiring minds want to know, but yeah, when she goes off to Northwestern State, she'll be able to say she graduated first in her class. And hopefully nobody will ask her, well, how many were in your class?
That's like the summer in 2000. That's like the summer in 2006 when I showed back up at MTSU and they said, "What'd you do this summer?" And I said, "I ran for sheriff." And everybody's like, "What?" and then I didn't tell them that it was an unopposed race, and I got like 20 write-in votes, so I technically finished second. I didn't tell them all that. You got to keep that under your lid. Yeah, don't tell anybody. And don't link that story if you're Miss Lopez. You just got to go out and say, "Hey, I was first in my class. What about it?"
I think you're burying the lead in this 2006 run for sheriff, Mr. Neely. I need to know more about this.
We had a Facebook campaign and everything. I treated it. I love Sheriff Kyle Helton and all he's done for the community, but I thought I'd throw my hat in and seize the little opportunity to finish runner-up, I guess. Second is better than none, I guess. Yeah, they said, how many people else ran? I was like, well, it's a one-man race, but I finished second. That's a headline grab, if nothing else.
No doubt. I need to know more about this. We'll talk. As long as we're that way, a tractor trailer overturned in North Texas here recently, spilling 8 million dimes on I-20. I guarantee you they didn't get all those dimes back. There's no way. I've not heard how many were recovered, but I don't know how that happens.
I mean, pick them up by hand. No, I'm out on that.
No. Yeah, that's not happening. I mean, I don't know if you get a bunch of shop vacs and try to
what that one picture looked like,
vacuum them up, or how that works, but that's a nightmare for somebody or for a bunch of somebodies, as it turns out. The highway had to be closed for half a day while crews worked to retrieve the dimes. This says authorities spent nearly 14 hours. That's more than a half a day. But crews used their hands, shovels, and vacuums to gather the loose coins after a tractor trailer crash. I'm sorry, it wasn't on I-20. It was on U.S. Highway 287 in Wise County, Texas. Truck veered off the road, overcorrected, and flipped. Shoveled, handpicked, and vacuumed the loose coins from the road and nearby brush. I don't know what would be worse, having to try to scoop them up or having to count them and make sure that they were all accounted for.
Yeah, the banks get mad if you show up with like $200 in loose change. Imagine you roll in there and you're like, "Hey, count this out for me."
Because what's that? 8 million dimes is $800,000, right? Is that math in there?
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, almost a mil
in dimes.
And the shop vac is one thing, but if that picture we showed where you're on your hands and knees digging for them. You got to draw up some sort of payment plan. Like, hey, give me a little cut of all this.
Oh, that's one for you and one for me kind of deal right there. I think a dime in the bag and a dime in my pocket, and we go back and forth. Yeah, you might recover half of them. There's no way you're getting all of them back. Sorry, that's wild and wacky. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, I don't know what a pileated, Pileated woodpecker is. I guess it's a bigger woodpecker than usual, though, because this guy has been wreaking havoc in Massachusetts, breaking car mirrors, more than 24, and a side window on one vehicle over the last few weeks. A destructive and determined pileated woodpecker has been on the loose in Rockport, Massachusetts. Again, the community has seen woodpeckers in the past, but not attacking and breaking glass fixtures. Initially, we just noticed that all the mirrors had been adjusted. It looked like maybe there's a child in the neighborhood that was going around pushing all the mirrors down. But now we're seeing broken mirrors. Given their enormous size, pileated woodpeckers are plenty strong enough to break mirrors, but such behavior is definitely weird. Lots of birds will be aggressive against reflections in mirrors, but I don't usually hear about woodpeckers. They don't usually peck at their opponents. They kind of chase them around. This expert said the woodpecker might be a little stupid. It is trying to defend its territory and scare away what it sees as competition. And I guess that explains the mirror situation. It's
bring that pic back up of that daddy there, Mark. I mean, it reminds me of, it kind of looks like, a Titans fan almost with the little flame head right there. I mean, that's a cool looking creature there. I was unfamiliar with pileated woodpecker.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I didn't realize woodpeckers got big enough to do that kind of damage. Apparently, though, in Massachusetts, they do. So look out. Getting crazy up in New England. In Connecticut, a rogue bear was roaming around and went through somebody's backyard and decided to entertain itself on the play set. Somebody got video of a bear sliding down a backyard slide in Simsbury, Connecticut. Lady returned home from lunch with her husband and 2 kids, looked out the window, saw 2 bears walking across their backyard. One of the bears stopped at the wooden playset and began climbing up the stairs. He made it to the landing and then went down the slide like he had done it before. Slides down head first, front paws breaking its fall in a pile of soft sand. Lays there calmly looking around. They hung out for about 10 minutes. Said they seemed so comfortable. Just kept joking that they've probably been there before, but we've never seen a bear go down a playscape before, ever. That was a first. Yeah, I'm glad they got it on video, because that might not be something that you see again. It's kind of crazy.
I love when this reminds me. I love the clips of polar bears when they slide down the ice. The snow embankments. That always warms the heart. I don't really feel very warm and fuzzy knowing that there's a bear in my backyard.
In my backyard, yeah.
I don't like that as much.
On the ice, far away is one thing. Right. In the backyard, totally different. Yeah. That's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Among other things, we will have Coach's Corner. Stick around, come back, have a great Wednesday. We'll see y'all at 2 tomorrow.